Power does not change people. It reveals them. And in Rome, power revealed the darkest sides of the human soul. This is the story of how a city built on duty and law slowly created rulers with no limits. Long before emperors ruled, Rome was a small town beside a quiet river. It began with farmers, soldiers, and simple leaders. Life was hard. People worked the land. They fought to protect their homes. They shared power in councils. No single man was meant to rule alone. In the early days, Rome feared kings. They had seen how one ruler could abuse power. So they built a republic. 2 leaders were chosen each year. The Senate advised them. Laws were written down. Power was meant to be shared. No one was above the law. For many years, this system worked. Rome grew stronger. Its armies pushed outward. Villages became cities. Cities became provinces. Victory brought wealth. Wealth brought pride. Pride brought hunger for more power. As Rome expanded, its wars never seemed to end. Generals returned with loyal armies. Soldiers trusted their commanders more than the Senate. Crowds cheered the men who won battles. Slowly, respect for law began to fade. People started to believe that strength mattered more than rules. The republic began to crack. Rich men grew richer. Poor people struggled to survive. Land was taken. Voices were ignored. Anger filled the streets. Riots became common. Violence entered politics. In this chaos, strong men rose. They promised order. They promised food. They promised peace. But what they truly wanted was control. One of these men was Julius Caesar. He was a brilliant leader. He won great battles. His soldiers loved him. The people admired him. When he crossed the river into Italy with his army, he broke a sacred rule. No general was allowed to bring troops into the heart of Rome. But Caesar did, and no one stopped him. The Senate feared him. They saw what was coming. They saw one man rising above all others. They spoke of freedom. They spoke of tradition. But their words were weak against Caesar's power. When Caesar was killed, many believed the republic was saved. But the damage was already done. The idea of shared power was broken. Rome had tasted what it meant to follow one strong leader. There was no turning back. After years of war, another man emerged. His name was Augustus. He was calm. He was patient. He did not take power by force alone. He took it with careful steps. He spoke of restoring the republic. But quietly, he placed all power in his own hands. The Senate still met. Laws were still passed. But everyone knew the truth. Nothing moved without Augustus. He controlled the armies. He controlled the money. He controlled the future. Rome had a new system now. It was called an empire. And Augustus was its first emperor. At first, this new order felt safe. Wars slowed. Trade increased. Roads were built. Cities flourished. People felt protected. They praised the man who brought peace. But peace came at a cost. Power was no longer shared. One man stood above the law. And when one man holds all power, the system begins to bend around him. The emperor's word became law. His anger became punishment. His favor became wealth. Those who pleased him rose. Those who angered him fell. Slowly, the palace became a world of whispers. Friends became rivals. Trust faded. Fear grew. Every smile hid a plan. Every silence carried danger. Children of emperors grew up surrounded by power. They saw no limits. They heard no truth. Servants obeyed without question. Courtiers praised without honesty. The idea of restraint began to vanish. Power stopped being a duty. It became a prize, a thing to protect at all costs, a thing to fight for, a thing to fear losing. The system that began with order now planted the seeds of cruelty. When no one can say no to a ruler, the ruler slowly forgets the word no. When no one can challenge power, power starts to believe it is right. Rome had built a throne that stood above law, above tradition, and above truth. And that throne would shape the minds of every emperor who sat upon it. The curse was not born in madness. It was born in silence. Silence of the Senate. Silence of the people. Silence of those who feared speaking out. As Rome grew greater, its rulers grew more distant from ordinary life. They lived behind walls of gold and guards. They ruled over millions, yet knew no one. Loneliness mixed with power. Fear mixed with control. This was the beginning, the moment when power stopped serving Rome, and Rome began serving power. What followed would test the human mind, and some would not survive it. Power does not stay quiet. When it has no limits, it begins to speak in cruelty. And in Rome, that voice grew louder with every emperor. The empire was now vast. Gold flowed into the capital. Armies stood loyal to one man alone. The Senate still met, but its words meant little. The emperor stood above all law, and the throne began to change the men who sat upon it. Some rulers tried to govern with care. They spoke of duty. They spoke of peace. But even good men felt the weight of endless power. No one could question them. No one could stop them. Slowly, the line between rule and desire began to fade. Then came rulers who did not fear the line at all. Caligula rose to the throne young. First, people loved him. He smiled in public. He spoke of kindness. But power worked fast upon his mind. He began to see himself as more than human. He demanded worship. He mocked the Senate. He ruled by fear and sudden anger. Those close to him lived in constant danger. A joke could become a death sentence. A silence could be seen as betrayal. The palace became a place of terror. No one felt safe. In the end, his own guards turned on him. Power that knows no limits always creates enemies. After him came Nero. He loved music. He loved praise. He wanted to be seen as a great artist. But he ruled an empire, not a stage. When the city burned, fear spread through the streets. People whispered that the emperor sang while Rome suffered. Whether true or not, the damage was done. Trust was gone. Nero grew more cruel with time. Those who challenged him were removed. Friends became threats. Even family was not safe. The palace filled with spies. The city filled with fear. The people began to turn away. The army lost faith. Revolts rose in distant lands. One by one, Nero's supporters vanished. In the end, he stood alone. Power left him as quickly as it came. These were not isolated stories. They were signs of a broken system. The throne offered no balance, no firm limits, no safe path back from excess. Even emperors who began with good intent faced the same trap. The palace cut them off from truth. Advisors spoke what pleased, not what was real. Crowds praised. Guards obeyed. Silence followed every cruel order. In such a world, a man begins to believe his own voice is the only truth. Power changed how emperors saw others. People became tools. Lives became numbers. Loyalty became something to buy with fear. Mercy became a weakness. The empire itself felt the strain. Corruption spread. Offices were sold. Justice was delayed or denied. Soldiers fought for pay, not for Rome. Each ruler tried to secure the throne, not the future. At times, the empire broke into open chaos. Armies named their own emperors. Cities closed their gates. The world Rome had built began to shake. Some rulers tried to restore order. They passed laws. They reformed the army. They punished corrupt men. But the curse of endless power still lingered. The system itself made cruelty easy. It rewarded fear, punished restraint. As years passed, the throne became a prize won by force. Whoever held the army held Rome. Violence decided leadership, and violence shaped the minds of those who ruled. The people grew tired. They saw emperors rise and fall. Each promised peace. Each failed in time. The dream of a just ruler faded into memory. Rome was still strong in stone and steel, but its spirit was worn thin. The curse of power without limits had left deep scars, not only on emperors but on the empire itself. In the end, the throne did not just rule men, consumed them. One by one, it turned rulers into shadows of themselves. And with every fall, Rome paid the price. If this story changed how you see power, stay with us by subscribing. Give this video a like to support deeper stories like this, and press the bell so you never miss what history reveals next.